Hi everyone, I am Scott Parkinson, assistant coach for the Chicago Red Stars. Tonight we are recording our 6th episode of this Coach's Corner web series where we get the chance to chat to some athletes, professionals and community members who are doing big things. But before we get into that, I like to start each one of these by sharing a little bit of good that's happening right now in the world. Juneteenth. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris signed into law a bill establishing Juneteenth National Independence Day, a celebration designated as the end of slavery in the United States as a federal holiday. Personally, I believe actions like this allow us to remember and reflect on our past as a nation so that we can truly try and improve the future of our nation. So good job, Joe and Kamala. I am now going to introduce our new guest. He is a triathlete star who participated with Team USA on the sprint duathlon men's team in the 2016 World Championships, making him the first known out trans athlete to join a US national team. He did this after successfully challenging the International Olympic Committee's policy regarding transgender athletes. Last year, he became the first openly transgender male athlete to ever compete in an Olympic trial alongside other men. And lest we forget that 7 years ago, he was named an inductee into the National Gay and Lesbian Sports Hall of Fame, thus making him the first openly transgender man inducted. It is my absolute honor to introduce Chicago's very own badass, Chris Mosier.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It is an absolute honor. And honestly, when I found out you were coming on, it was obviously you have a coaching career, you get into professional coaching, and it was truly one of them moments where it was, this is a moment that I'm going to get because of my career. And it just made me really happy and thankful that I get the opportunity to meet amazing people like you.
Well, thank you. As an athlete and also as a fellow coach, I love spending time with other coaches. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So first things first, how are things with you? What's going on in life? Like, how are things?
Things are picking up. I'm happy to say I'm working my way out of the COVID fog and things are coming back. And I'm just really thrilled that, Pride is back strong this month, which means my speaking engagements are back strong and doing a lot of advocacy work, but also for me, training and racing is coming back. And I'm so excited to be back out there with my athletic community, with other athletes and getting back on track, getting after it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So first things first, this is how it's going to work. We'll ask you 3 or 4 kind of serious questions, and then we'll finish up with a kind of a fun game that may be a little bit lighter, a little bit more chill. Okay. So your motto is be who you needed when you were younger. How did you land there? And how can we make sure that we provide that care and attention to the next generation? Love the motto, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It really came out of me not seeing people like me in sports when I was younger. And when I was figuring out my gender identity, and probably even before I had the language or terminology to explain who I am to other people, I was looking in sports for a reflection of myself. And I was just coming up short. I didn't see transgender people in sports. I didn't see trans men competing with men. And I often think now when I have these sort of milestone moments, what would my life have been like when I was a kid if I would have seen someone like me on Team USA, in a Nike ad, in ESPN magazine, things like that. So, really, I came to that point because that's, what my purpose here every day is to be out and visible so that other people can see me and know that they're possible and that they can participate in sports at any level and be their authentic self.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And obviously for me, I've had quite an easy upbringing and quite an easy life in sport. But even your motto for someone as privileged as me, I think is beautiful because I actually pride myself now on I wish I could see who I was going to be when I grew up. And I feel like maybe if I had your motto as a little bit of a guiding light growing up, I may have had a better growing up and something to follow. But I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's universal for all people, right? You don't have to be transgender to understand that. You don't have to be a member of the LGBTQ community to see yourself in that motto. It's really, we all, when we were kids, were looking for role models, and some of us found them and felt attached to them, and some of us didn't and didn't see ourselves. And so just another idea or another reminder of why representation is so important.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We actually have a trans athlete in the NWSL now, Quinn. Um, you know, they are doing everything they can. They are an amazing athlete. And I think they are doing more than they even know for everybody looking at our league right now as an ambassador for equality. So yeah, Quinn's doing an unbelievable job too.
Yeah, it's a challenging position as a trans person in sports, because I put myself out there intentionally trying to be a role model. Like, I knew when I came out in 2010, seeing a wide open field of no representation or no current representation in sports, that I wanted to be known as the trans athlete to try to blaze that trail for other people, so that Quinn could come out, so that other athletes could come out and feel welcomed and accepted in sports. But not every trans athlete wants to be that activist. Some of us just want to show up and be the people that we know that we are and play the sports that we love. So you're absolutely right. Quinn is doing an incredible job in both, in terms of actively doing activism, but also just by being present, just by being their true authentic selves and playing at a high level. So many people are looking up to them.
Yeah, I agree. And even you're right, it is all about the people, the athletes, but Quinn has done a good job in our world of making normal people who just aren't aware of it, like bringing it to the forefront so people can actually think about it and understand it. And then a lot of people change their mind on it and be like, yeah, this is how it should be. But I think, you're right, without trailblazers like you and Quinn, we will get stuck in the past. And I know people actually just want to be athletes sometimes and don't want to be trailblazers, but we do need some trailblazers to actually drag the rest of the world along and make people wake up and see everyone for the beautiful humans and athletes that they are.
Yeah, and that's so important to see, right? Because when I first came out in 2010, there was a statistic that 80% of Americans didn't know a trans person in real life. And so if you've never met someone like me, it becomes very easy to create these sort of stereotypes and myths and misconceptions about who we think trans people are based on what we've seen in the media, what we've seen in movies and TV shows, which was largely negative portrayals of trans people. And so it's so important to now, be able to not only be visible, but also to be able to provide that education, because you're absolutely right. So many of us, so many Americans don't know enough about transgender people, about transgender athletes, and they're operating off of myths, misconceptions, and things that they've heard in these sort of, there's a tweet is too short, a headline of an article is too short to provide all the nuance and the complexities about the LGBTQ and specifically trans and non-binary athletes.
Yeah, agreed. Well said. Okay, so next question. How important was your support system during the time of your transition, both in your personal life and as an athlete?
My personal support network was incredibly important, because so much of my life lived up until that point of, like, when I knew I was trans, but in the time period of self-accepting, and then the time between that and coming out, I did a lot of overthinking, I'd say now. a lot of thinking about what other people might say, how I might be treated at work. I was working in an office at that time, or on my sports teams. I had a team of triathletes who were all straight and cisgender, no one in the LGBTQ community that I knew of. And how was I going to be treated and accepted there? How would I be treated when I was on the course racing? And so I just, overthought and had all of these sort of fears that I was projecting onto other people, and I was living and navigating the world and from a really unsafe feeling place. So having people like my partner, who was just so incredibly supportive in me figuring out my identity and how I wanted to show up in this world, and then like my teammates on my triathlon team, who just loved me and accepted me as a fellow athlete, as a fellow person out there working hard, trying to get after the same goals. Those relationships transcended my identity. And so when I told people that I was trans, even if they didn't understand it, they loved me and supported me as a person, as a fellow athlete, as a coach. And that really helped me. It helped me feel more comfortable, honestly, because they still wanted me around. And so it was through the confidence of having those interactions, having it go well, that I began to build the confidence to come out in other areas of my life, and then ultimately come out publicly.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you to your support system, because it's going pretty well for you right now.
Yeah, not bad.
I love it. Okay, so next one. How do you think sports have evolved in terms of accepting the trans community? What more do we need to be doing?
Since I came out 11 years ago now, so much has changed in terms of sports. When I came out, there weren't policies in my sports, in most sports. There weren't written policies that gave guidance to not only the athlete of whether or not they could participate, but also coaches and administrators and leagues and governing bodies. People were just operating on a case-by-case basis. So in the past 11 years, we've seen more and more sports teams and leagues adopt trans-inclusive policies. But where we can actually come further is, we need more education, because so much about trans identity, and particularly transgender athletes in sports this year and last year, has become politicized. Yeah. Young transgender people are being the targets of lawmakers' efforts to divide people. And in 8 states in our country this year alone, transgender youth, so young kids like me, have been banned from playing sports with their friends. This isn't a partisan issue. This is about kids playing with their friends and getting all of the values that they get out of sports. So that's largely because of a lack of education about who trans people are, who trans athletes are. So we need more education. We need more inclusive policies and things that are actually in writing, so that people know that they can participate and that they have protections. And then I think we need to change the narrative around transgender people. So much of what's been printed in the media speaks about trans athletes in theory, not in actuality. Many of these articles don't even cite a real transgender person or ask us to comment. And so, again, you have to think, if 80% of people in the country believe they've never met someone like me, it becomes very easy for them to ban kids like me from sports. Yeah. So we need to change the narrative, get a better understanding about trans people, and remember the humanity of the athletes that we're talking about, because we're real people. And sometimes I think athletes can be dehumanized and put on a pedestal in such a way that we lose the humanity of athletes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I am completely agree in everything you're saying. It's ultimately a human being that just wants to play a sport like everyone else. But I think it's the education piece that's the key, because ultimately we believe what we believe, and we believe what we're fed. And we've been fed so much shit about so much shit, from race to religion to, you name it. But I've always felt like I truly believe who I am today has been because I've probably surrounded myself with so many beautiful people who knew more about things that I did, and maybe led me down some paths of thinking on, hey, like, actually, this isn't right. The way you're thinking isn't right. And then when someone gives you the education or the other side of the coin, it's like a bus hits you.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. But without the education, without people talking, without people speaking up, and then ultimately without people listening, we're never going to get anywhere with anything. So I completely agree. I think it's, yeah.
It's not about calling people out, it's really about calling them into the conversation. These conversations can be really uncomfortable because none of us want to mess up, right? None of us want to say the wrong things. And at the same time, we have the opportunity, like you said, when that bus hits you, you can't unknow what you've been taught. And so once you know, you have to do better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. I agree. Come on, people. Okay, last kind of serious question.
Okay.
What legacy do you want to leave behind, both as a triathlete and as an activist?
I actually do wake up every day thinking about my legacy, and I think actually waking up every day, living an awesome life, you know, doing my sports, not being stopped by anybody else's preconceived limitations that they place on me.
Uh-huh.
That is my activism. That is my legacy. Is being able to blaze that trail for other athletes. I want to put myself out there in such a way that it makes it easier for every transgender and non-binary person who comes after me.
Yeah, no, I think you're in an unbelievable position. You're probably now giving yourself a responsibility. That's probably quite heavy, but you're right. I think if you can wake up and get after that legacy, I think the world's going to be in a better place for you, Chris. So I appreciate that legacy that you've chosen.
Yeah, hopefully for me and for everyone in my community as well.
Absolutely. And then hopefully the ripple effect goes out to,
Mhm.
to everyone outside your community too.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the serious questions are done. We're just going to play a little game of Would You Rather. Okay. So you're going to
Okay.
get a couple of options and then
Okay.
you have to pick one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So would you rather compete against Katie Ledecky in the pool or compete against Simone Biles on the floor? The choice is yours, and we need a why.
Yeah, I think Simone Biles, because I'm in awe of both of these incredible athletes, but I'm definitely a land breather more than a water breather. And so I feel just seeing the way I think at least with Simone, we're on the same mat or on the same beam. Katie would be out of the pool, showered, and fed by the time I finished. So there's my rationale.
I love it. Okay. I'd probably go with Katie because I have zero rhythm and movement of anything. So I think I'd probably have more chance winning against Katie. I'd never win against either of them, but
Oh, we were trying to win. I thought, which one would I have a better view
oh
of
no.
watching?
You've got to compete against them. You've got to
Yeah,
try and win.
yeah, yeah. My answer is unchanged.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay. Would you rather play in a 3v3 US basketball game with LeBron James, Brianna Stewart, or Aja Wilson as teammates? Or would you play with Damian Lillard, Sue Bird, or Stephanie Dolson? 3v3, which is the team that you play on and which is the team that I play on? And again, it's a win.
Oh yeah, I'm on Team LeBron.
Okay.
But I guess it turns into 4-on-4 if we insert ourselves in there, does it not?
Well, I'm one of the best defenders in basketball I've ever seen. So I'd try and shut LeBron down if I could.
You don't play much basketball, do you?
No.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Yeah, no. Anytime I've ever played or stepped on a court, it's like I've got a hot potato in my hand and I've just got to give it to someone else. I don't shoot. I don't do it, son. Plus, I'd be happy playing with Sue Bird. What a legend.
Absolutely. Tough choices here.
Yeah, tough choices. Okay, last question.
Yep.
Would you rather have your own signature line of a Nike running shoe or have a lifetime supply of whatever Nike shoe you've ever wanted?
I would rather have my own signature line. And fingers crossed, like, let's make it happen. I've been trying.
Yeah.
But and the reason for this is I can't quite show you my closet now, but I'm set on shoes.
I am the same. Like, I am set on Nikes. I'd be with you. I'd go for a signature Nike. Probably if we both had a signature shoe, I guess you'd outsell me a little bit. But I'd still buy one of yours.
Yeah. I'd get yours for free.
Yeah. Mine would be in your closet. Yeah, mine would be in your closet. Well, listen, honestly, thank you, Chris. I mentioned it earlier, like, this is one of the perks of the job for me. And I truly, truly mean that. This is beyond football. This is beyond the field. To meet someone like you and get this opportunity to just chit chat and hear from such a legend and someone that means so much to Chicago and so many communities in Chicago. Just thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful that you're here, that the Red Stars are here. Everybody needs to get some tickets, get out to a game. I went to opening night and it was a blast. I actually went, this is how fun it was. I went by myself because we all need to get out there and support women's sports. We know that there are so many issues in the discrepancies in how women are treated in the sports world. And this is one thing I'm really passionate about, because a lot of times people are putting women's sports against trans people, and that's a false choice. You can have full inclusion of all people in sports and support women's sports. There are many very real issues in terms of pay, in terms of opportunities, in terms of access, in terms of media. We know the list goes on and on. But if you really care about women's sports, you need to get a ticket, you need to get a jersey, you need to park your butt at that stadium and get out there and cheer, and you will have the best time. You all put on an incredible show.
Absolutely. I couldn't have finished it any better than that. Chris, thank you very much. That's a wrap.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chris.